So this one's actually a delicate dory, even though it says Boston Whaler. You can tell by the turn back here, and those of you that seen some of the other ones, you can see that you can also see the bow underneath and front. But so this thing's had a couple additions, but they're basically a Boston Whaler. They're a little bit heavier, same basic hull design. A lot of people can't tell the difference other than a couple minor things. This one's had a drain hole added because it's had a water leak problem. As a matter of fact, it's been apart once. You can see under here it was all pulled apart once. And refoamed. I'm guessing it's about a 70 to 73 model. And then this is a little loose, and that had broke on the trailer. So that was a quick repair. Yeah, last year I had it underway because I knew I was going to do this. Some of you have seen before how I topped up foam. And we did that, and you can see, well, here's actually one of the holes there you drilled. But I wanted to make sure that was going to work, and this is all nice and solid now. Before, you put your hand here and you could flex it. Like, there might be an area back here, you could flex a little, because I did try to strip using a heat gun to strip some of this paint. But what I found was that it got so hot, by the time you got it hot enough to strip the paint, you were actually starting to melt the foam underneath. So again, this was it's an old hull. And you can even see what happened here. It was on the trailer, and it had gotten wet at one time, right? So when I topped the foam up, it squeezed a lot of the water out. I reweighed it, and I lost over 200 pounds adding foam to it. So I did get it dry pretty good. I wanted to see how well, that repair would do before I went through and did what a job I'm doing now. So what's happening now is I'm getting all the bottom paint off, which, when we put it on, I wasn't sure when I was going to get around to doing this job. It wound up being only a year later. So it actually is quite a bit. So you can see that flex there. This is an area they probably should have added a little bit more. But once you're down in there, it's hard foam now. Anyways. So right now I'm trying to strip all this bottom paint off. And then got a couple of products here I'm going to wind up using. This would kind of be some of you have heard of Interlux 2000. Same basic. This is an epoxy primer thinner. And this is basically Total Bolt's version of Interlux 2000 called Total Protect. It's a two-part epoxy primer. Mix it together. I want to get about 5 to 10 mil coverage. However, I'm going to go a step farther. Because this is older kind of integrity, the hull is a little bit integrated. I am going to actually wrap here on all three chines and strengthen those up, because you can see even the weight of it. A lot of this happened before I got all the water out, but the weight actually pushed down on there. And I know that the foam is really what's supposed to do the holding rigidity, but it's a combination, of both foam and glass. So I'm going to lay, some glass in down the center chine, probably just to here on this. Back here it doesn't really need it. And then originally when I got this boat, this was the area that was bad. But that repair seems to have been held, and I'm not going to worry about that. I thought about strengthening that area up. So I'm going to probably run the full length of the center, and I'll do it probably 6 inches wide and 3 inches wide. And then I may even do an inch wide and do a 3-layer layup. 3-layer layup will really add some rigidity to that. It's going to be a 2-layer for sure. And then, since I'm going to be mixing up some regular epoxy anyways, I'm going to actually roll. Do I have that roller with me? I do have that roller with me. Let me go out to the truck here. I can show you. Now, I've got good epoxy. I got some cheap epoxy. So actually I got G-Flex, we won't be using that today. I will use a little bit of density. Downstairs I've got some West systems, but I also have some cheap Bondo version of fiberglass resin, and actually it looks like I got two things of resin and no hardener, so I definitely won't be using that. Well, I do have some hardener down here, but so this is one of the rollers you actually put on and roll your fiberglass or roll your epoxy out. So I'll probably go downstairs and get some more West systems instead of using up the cheap stuff, because I want to do this job right anyways. I just happened to bring it in case I didn't have enough. Because I'm working at my dad's, because I need the rafters to get everything flipped over. But you can roll this on with epoxy. So I can do 2 or 3 coats of West systems, depending on how much I have, to actually lay this up and get a good barrier, 10 mil before I even put that on, and that's a paint color. That would be clear. So you can actually roll it while it's wet, and then while it's still a little bit sticky, you can get 3 coats on in about 5 hours, and let that cure overnight. Hit it with some 80 grit, and do the next day and do those. Now another important thing you're going to do after all your sanding and getting your water out, and that's the reason I keep it one, it's easier to work upside down. But another reason upside down is as the water comes out, and if I had a moisture meter, I'd check it, but I know it's wet, I know it's heavy, right? It actually will off gas glycol resin will off gas, right? So you want to actually watch it. One of the last things you want to do is get it wet again before you're done. Now, stripping's been a nightmare. This stuff worked pretty darn good to get me through a lot of it, where I could actually chip and peel and scrape. It took me 3 coats of that, the power washer. But coming right down to it, I had to sand anyways, so 40 grit, 60 or 40 and 80 is what I've got. I wish I had some 60, but I'm using up what I got here. Kind of the last thing to do is I put the 40 back on. I've got this was a mount that we had made to make this capable to take a long shaft instead of a short. And I do have a new long shaft for it, but it's wider, so I got to actually take that off anyways. But we're going to take that off, and so I can sand back here, because I do want to go all the way down, to the white line. That's about where she sits in the water anyways. That's your self-draining hull, so it gives you an idea at least to there, but that's a little bit more. But I want to widen that out because I bought a 50 horse for it. That's one nice thing about the Del Key. The actual older Del Keys are rated for 50 horse. And that's today's project. I'll touch base when I get a little farther along.